call this meeting to order. First thing, pledge allegiance. Okay, if we could, Mr. Auditor, a roll call, please.
Mr. Loudermilk.
Here.
Ms. Alsop. Here. Ms. Wager.
Here.
Mr. Thacker.
Here.
Ms. Thies.
Here.
Mr. Norris.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Friday. And the first thing we have is the corrections to the journal for preceding meetings if needed. The first one is the August 1st Sunshine Meeting in 2023, and that is on page 25. If the council would take a moment to look that over, and whenever ready, make a motion to approve those.
President Thacker,
Yes. Councilman Loudermilk.
make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any discussion on the August 1st, 2023 Sunshine Meeting? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next one we have is the August 8th meeting. It's on page 34. Take a moment to look those over, see if there's any corrections needed. If not, I would entertain a motion for those as well.
President Thacker, motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the August 8th, 2023 meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Communication from elected officials, other officials, or agencies of the county. So, do we have anybody that'd like to speak? It looks like we have the superintendent from Parks. Like to say something? Adam?
Adam Grossman, Superintendent, Vigo County Parks. I'll make this real quick. I hate to do this, especially when I'm on the agenda tonight, but I have to do this for my employees. I can't look at them tomorrow without telling them I did the best that I could for them. And just had about 3 points here real quick. They'll take about 1 minute, but and if you don't answer these, that's fine, or if you answer them later through the discussion, that's great too. Just some ideas in which Cheryl's way smarter than I am, so she's probably come up with this stuff already. But my staff's going to wonder, I'm going to wonder, did we look at any kind of early retirement buyouts coming up? Obviously, with this salary study stuff here at the end of the agenda, so looking at early retirement buyout, clear some top space possibly. I know we're stretching to try to get to anything close to midpoint, which is obviously where everybody'd really like to be. Also looking at starting at that midpoint in January, forgo this 25, forgo any back pay. I don't know, maybe that'll irritate a lot of people, but I'd be okay with it and save a little chunk of money up front. Also looking at probationary period for any incoming new employees. You know, start them at the minimum or whatever is customary. Give that person a carrot to stay, but also save that money for some of these revolving door employees, but give them that carrot where they could step up, save some of that money up front. So that's just 3 of the ideas I had that I wanted to present. Like I said, I want to be able to look at these guys tomorrow and tell them I did everything that I could and I gave you guys my ideas. So.
Adam, I was writing down, I didn't catch the second one. What was the
Yeah,
second one?
starting midpoint in January.
Midpoint
Forgo
January.
that 25, forgo back pay, start at the midpoint, which is where I think everybody needs to be. I know that we've taken a lot of time, and a lot of people in this room are probably hoping that we'll get some back pay and all that, but, you know, I'd rather be at where we're supposed to be, even if it's starting in January, than trying to backtrack and
Right.
figure all that stuff out. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure
Sure.
50% of everybody in here will beat me for this, so.
Well, any questions for Mrs. Grossman? Yes.
Just one question, just for clarification. When you say January, do you mean January of 2024?
Right, January 1st, this coming January,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, our fear is we'll never get to that midpoint, and we'll push it to the next budget cycle, and then we'll be behind by the time we get there, even that much further. So that was just my thoughts and opinions, and reflecting many of the thoughts and opinions through our staff, so, thank you.
I definitely, and it's not come up, Adam had mentioned this
Hold on a
before
second.
to me, that maybe looking at, possible buyouts, how that would work. It's just not saying we commit to it, but might be something we look at in the future. That have to be an HR thing, but I know it's worked successfully where I work with the schools, and it might be something to maybe consider. I don't know if they have to go through the commissioner's ideas first, but I wouldn't mind investigating that.
And I wanted to try to address anything I could on, I sat in on some of the budget meetings, and I sat in on one today. I was gone last week, so I thought that I should come back today and spend the day trying to get caught up to speed on everything. And at the end of the meeting, our auditor said something that was very insightful, I thought, for us, that we, as a county, we were appropriated $20 million. $10 million of that was money for lost revenue. So there's $10 million that we could use for those kind of things that you were just talking about, but we have it here on a schedule that if we do everything that the commissioners have suggested for us on the ARPA funds, we'll be down to $300,000 to use for our budget. So $10 million would go a long ways to do some of those things. When we look at our budget of $52 million that we're trying to work on to get it reduced down, $10 million would go a long ways to do all the things that we want to do. Now, if we approve these things under the ARPA, which are some great programs, we're going to be left with $300,000 to do with what we want. And that won't even get us to 25% of the Baker-Tilly study.
Yeah.
So that's what we're faced with, Adam. And so, but I haven't heard of a buyout, and I hadn't heard of an option of not doing the retroactive, because that's been the appetite all along that we wanted to try to do. We felt like they got a raise in January of 4% and got their health care, all the cost of health care caught up, but we felt like that still wasn't enough and that we wanted to do more. And I think that's what the subcommittee's been trying to do, and I think that's what the budget committee's trying to do is, but it's just trying to find enough money with the revenue that we have. And the last one on probationary for new employees, that is going to be in effect that we don't think that a new employee should come in and make the same money that an existing employee makes. So that is part of the study that we want to do. I wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Because I agree, when somebody comes in brand new, they shouldn't be making the same money as somebody that's already been there. So that part we are addressing. So
Okay.
just thought I
Great.
would try to address the best I could of the 3 points that you had.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate the answers.
Yes.
Council, Kevin Gardner, County Assessor. I just wrote this all down so that I wouldn't ramble and take up too much time. I didn't know if Marie was going to time me today.
No time.
So basically, here's what I've got. I'd like to begin by stating I mean no disrespect to the council or any other governmental department. As a financial body of the county government, I understand the difficult choices you must make to ensure the county can function financially and sustain that functioning. When the council contracted Baker-Tilly to perform a compensation study, it was because they understood there were some inadequacies among offices and staff. Although there are some issues with the study, as they've been working through, for the most part, I think it represents the current market conditions. As an example, I did pull year-ending 2022 salaries for 10 counties that are the most similar to ours by parcel count. I used parcel count because that's where the largest portion of our revenue comes from. By pulling those 10, it came up with a median income for a deputy assessor of $42,000. When I looked at the Baker-Tilly study that was presented, the midpoint was $42,888. To me, that indicates that the study's pretty accurate, at least concerning my office. I really just don't think anyone anticipated how drastic the salary adjustments would need to be and the financial impact it would be on the budget. During the long drawn-out process, most of the offices were told salary adjustments needed to wait until the Baker-Tilly study was completed. Since the council seen the study and during some of that previous time, some departments were raised, some here recently to the midpoint, going back to July and as far as January. Although the council hasn't voted on it yet, I get the drift that maybe they're gonna go to the 25% back to July and possibly won't get to the midpoint even in 2024, depending on what's available in the budget. Under these trying times, I believe any raise to the employees would be greatly appreciated, but it is disappointing when one office seems to be treated differently than another. So my point is, instead of stating that the budget can't sustain taking everyone to the midpoint, I think that we should be looking for ways that we can make it work. I've talked to some of you before about this. I've talked to other department heads. I think there needs to be a personnel type committee. There are other counties that have this. I think they need to be an assistant to the council. I think there needs to be a freeze put on hiring so that when a new position is required or when someone leaves a position, that it would go before that committee, they would do the investigation, and then either give a favorable or unfavorable report to the council, and then ultimately it would still be your choice. The only way we're ever gonna make any type of raises sustainable is through staffing. With technology, some offices don't require the staffing they used to need, but you don't give up a position, because if you give up that position, you'll never get it back, and it doesn't give you any incentive for the rest of the employees. If I lose one person out of my office, everyone else is still gonna make the same amount of money, but they're gonna pick up that slack. So there's no incentive there to give up those positions. I think it could be done through that committee. I think a good makeup of that committee, if it's done, would be 3 elected officials, 3 department heads, HR, a commissioner, a council person, and 4 employees. That gives you a very diverse mix. With the way people talk in the building, people know what is done from one office to the next. So if someone comes and asks for something, they know if they need it or if they don't need it. I think that would help do that. And I think over time, through attrition, staffing would be reduced to the point where the raises would be sustainable. That's all I had.
Any questions for, hold on a second, any questions for Mr. Gardner? I think that's an excellent idea on the committee. I'll talk to legal and see what the process is and what we can do on that. I do think the involvement of the employees and the staffing is pivotal. I don't disagree with your point. And it's been an educational piece of process here as well, and somewhat disappointing at times for myself that what we can and can't do, or what we trying to do. So appreciate your comments.
And we understand. I understand. I know most of the other people do too. It's not an unlimited fund. I mean, you can't just keep handing out more than what you take in. So that's the reason I said I think we just need to work on ways to make it sustainable for the people who are here, who are stay, who do the work, for the longevity that's coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you.
Vicki Albright, Veterans Assistance. The reason I'm up here is because we're getting short-sighted. We have been trying for over 2 years to get extra help. We can't get anything. I was personally told last week that I did not need to stay for the sunshine meeting to come to tonight's meeting because our thing would be voted on tonight. It's not on the menu. We tried for 6 months to get help to put our budget together. I myself went to the budget meeting with Vicki and Nancy and Travis, and that was over 3 weeks ago. We have not been publicized yet. I was told at that meeting that it would be in the next publication. And just for one last word, you guys replaced, well, Karen retired and you got Tim. And in my opinion, Tim is the best thing that you've done for this Veterans Office because we have a 95% rate of getting veterans approved for disability. Those veterans bring in between $1,000 to $5,000 a month into this community. You don't see it coming in, but these veterans are spending that money here in this county. And we've got a couple here in the office, or in the meeting. You're letting our veterans down by ignoring us. And that's where it's at.
Yeah, I sat in on the budget. It was talked about today in the budget committee, so I know that's where it was addressed and that's where it's been discussed.
Then why were we told that it would be voted on tonight?
I don't know who told you that. I didn't tell you that.
No, you weren't around.
No, I actually took a vacation, and I think I deserved it, and so I took one, and I left somebody very capable in charge, and so there is a process how all this works, and it's.
Can someone send us that in writing so we'll know?
Yes.
Because we have been told many different things, and each time we try to come forward with this process, no, not tonight. No, come next week. It has happened too many times.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that I will talk with.
And if
auditors
you ask our veterans, they'll tell you, we work hard for them.
I've heard
And
that.
they deserve it. We are getting more and more younger veterans, Iraqi, Afghanistan. It's just not World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. You're getting people in the office that are in their 20s and 30s. They need help, and they get it from us. And right now, I am scheduling veterans almost 8 weeks out for appointments because we don't have enough help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Just real quick. I want to clarify because I think some of the things you were addressing, were they in the 2024 budget? Is that?
That's what we were trying to
Okay,
get.
okay. Because that process is still continuing. We usually vote on that in October. So there's still, we're getting through the salary process and then going through with what can be allocated. So that, it's not, just in looking at it, I just kind of want to, and I understand, I apologize if there was miscommunication. I don't believe,
But it's been going on for 2 years.
Okay, yeah, okay. We usually vote in October for budgets, so, and I'm glad, I understand you guys have been talking to staff and had
It's
requested some things.
frustrating
Okay,
when you have a veteran that calls and says, I'm close to being homeless, I need to put in for disability, and you can't get him in for 2 months because there's no slot open.
okay. And from my understanding too, just from talking to Tim, we are covering multiple counties, correct?
We cover any veteran that comes in our door. 95% of them are Vigo County veterans.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other communication from elected officials or other officials or agencies of the county?
Good evening, I'm Brad Newman, I'm the Vigo County Clerk. Thank you for allowing me a moment here to
Yes.
speak my piece. When we first started this whole thing started because WIS used to be the agency that we contracted to, I guess, oversee what we should pay our people. We recognized that WIS hadn't done their job for a long time, and I came up here and myself and a couple other elected officials made it very clear that we're nowhere near where we should be, and turnover's bad. You can say people don't like working for me, you can say whatever you want, but when we start doing exit interviews and we find out it's all about salary because they're all going to the courts, the majority of them, I think it's very evident what it is. So then and I apologize, some of you weren't even on the budget when I first started this process because it's been going on that long. I'm sorry, some of you weren't on the council. I apologize. I've watched politics be played in this room. I've watched people, nobody seems to be able to tell us exactly what's in the budget or who has what. I've watched us give away millions of dollars. And throughout the process, we brought Baker Tilly in. In that same time, we got new HR people. We have, after watching last week's meeting and paying attention to things, what we've done is we've sent a message that we're going to pick and choose who gets raises and how we do it. And I don't think that was done on purpose. I think some people had some legitimate needs, but I think this entire process has become dysfunctional as possible. I think that our county employees are our most precious asset, and I don't say that for political reasons. Without them, we're not here. But I think we need to reevaluate priorities and egos, including mine, and find out. I think we've got to look at some of the options that have been presented to us. So why did we pay Baker Tilly or WIS if we're not going to follow their guidelines? We, as elected officials, and this has happened to you guys because I've talked to you people on the council about this, you're given a number, Calissa was given a number, the auditor's office is given a number of what we really have. And I think we need to reevaluate what that number is and can we sustain it. Nobody wants to raise taxes, and that's not fair to the taxpayers, and it's not fair to department heads, and it's not fair to you guys to be put in that situation, but we are clearly sending the wrong message to a lot of employees. After talking with department heads today, it was very clear that some of the squeaky wheels get the grease and some don't. And I know that you probably don't believe this because your jobs are dollars and cents. The council's the purse of the finance division of the county, and I get that. But I think that we have failed a lot of people. I think there's been politics played. I think for this to take 3 years for us to figure out and get results back, regardless of what was going on, I think that doesn't make us look good in any way, shape, or form, whether it be department head, council, elected officials. The employees are frustrated. You can hear it in their voice. A lot of them have come up and said some things. I don't agree with everything that was said, but I will say this. I know how hard these people work. Some of you have taken the time to come in the office and see what my department does. I can't speak for other departments, but I do talk to their department heads. And I think we need to really step up and take care of the employees. I've said this all along. I've said it for 6 years now. WIS wasn't doing their job, or somebody wasn't holding them accountable. And that's not on department heads, and that's not on me. That's part of the council's job. And again, the council's had high turnover. Not high turnover, that wasn't meant to be insulting.
No, it's change. Yeah,
Sure,
we
there's
yeah, we
different people
understand.
get elected, there's attrition,
Yeah,
that type of thing.
absolutely. Yeah.
But for this to go on for the amount of time that it's gone on is inexcusable. And for the numbers to be different with the auditor's office than it was Calissa, and the way that this whole thing is played out, it seems shady to a lot of people. And some people won't tell you this. I will tell you this, I think that we have to look at what the optics are when we say we're only giving you 25%, but we gave these people here a 37% raise, right?
Or 50.
Yes, sir. That's correct. I mean, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that when we do that, and I've made it very clear, we devalue people, and that doesn't make them feel good about working for the county. And so if this is a suggestion, and we go to the 25 percentile, everybody in this room will be grateful for their raises that work for the county. Everyone will. It's not like, well, you gave us 4%, you ought to be grateful for that. We are grateful for that. Everyone in the room is grateful for that. But when we look at the overall picture of how this process has played out, it's been absolutely embarrassing. It's taken way too long. Politics have been played. we ask for the politics, us that are on the ballot. The employees don't, and they shouldn't be treated as such. And I think that that's whether anybody will come out and say it or not, that's what's being said behind closed doors. And I want to make you guys aware of that. This is one of those things that I apologize, because I'm one of the guys that called WIS out. If I would have known it was going to cause this much of a mess and this much heartache and hard feelings, I probably would have just thrown my hands up and said enough's enough. But please, before you guys make the decisions, especially, I don't want to see taxes raised. That's not what I'm saying, but we've got to take care of every county employee. One doesn't mean more than the other. Do some of them have more risk in their jobs? Absolutely. But don't devalue the county employees, because this whole idea that we're going to give these people raises at 50%, we're going to give these people raises, it's not fair. And we need to either go with their study, or we need to toss all these studies out and you guys make decisions on what we should be making. Because it paints the picture that you guys don't want to be the people that say yes or no, on the pay scales. I'm okay with you guys saying yes or no. WIS or Baker Tilly or any of these other people that are doing the studies, they have no idea what we're really doing. They come in and they read a piece of paper and we sit with them for 15 minutes and that's their study. I understand that they're going to go take all that information back that was requested 4 or 5 times by Calissa, that was provided 4 or 5 times, that got changed. I'm clear with what happened. I really am. But we're not going to just keep changing things until it meets someone's agenda. We were very transparent with what we do and the areas we could cut. I've come to you guys and we've cut different positions and we've done different things, and a lot of department heads have. But again, I just want to encourage you guys to take a hard look at how this looks from a lot of employees. They're very grateful for any raise, and they appreciate the hard work. It doesn't go unnoticed. But I think we have to take a step back and say, hey, we just gave these people a 50% raise, so they're more important than these others. I think that a lot of people are scratching their heads about that. And this wasn't to beat you down or a browbeating session. It was absolutely not. I know all of you, I've known you all for a long time. And it's been on my mind for a couple months, and I've let the process play out, because you got to trust the process. The process was garbage. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to make sure I clarify one thing on it. When we talk about the 25 percentile or 50 percentile, that's not 25% increase or a 50% increase.
That's right.
That is, the 50% is what they called, Baker Tilly called the market.
Correct.
So that's, and then halfway between the minimum and the market was the 25%.
Correct.
So I apologize if there's any confusion on that, because we look at the numbers and we call the 25 percentile the 50 percentile. But it's not 50% increase or
Right.
37% or 25. And I too appreciate your candor. As you and I have talked before, I appreciate your candor. I might not always agree, but I appreciate the candor, And so I have tried to make the process faster. I wanted to get us all to the 25% back in April, and then work out all the issues on it. Well, that didn't work out, and I was advised not to do that. And so this is the process that we're in. And now I think tonight we're going to be able to make some movement on it. Hopefully we'll see what the council wants to do, and we'll get a motion on it. And I will say is, because of the lapse of it, you are correct. We have had to address some situations along the way, and we have given some increases to other departments that were severely handicapped because of staffing. And so, and those have played out the way they played out. And it is very easy to look at something and come up with a conspiracy. And I know that's what's happened some here. And so I understand that, and if anybody's taken the time to ask me questions and listen to the answer, and I hope tonight we can do a better job explaining the money that we have and the money that's available and sustainability, as you said earlier. So that's a big piece of it. So just so happened that's the last thing on the agenda item tonight. And so it'll be a little while before we get there, but we are going to address that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Any other questions for Mr. Newman? Thank you. One last call. Any other communication, elected officials, other officials, agencies of the county?
President Thacker,
Yes.
on a different note, do you have any updates or information to provide about Intech and where things stand with local labor? Specifically, I've had several inquiries in the last week about their unwillingness to commit to a project labor agreement.
So, I spoke with Mr. Witt before I left town, and when I was out, and then they had a ribbon cutting ceremony. And then they later, after the ribbon cutting ceremony, they had a session where they were interviewing potential contractors. And I haven't had a conversation with WIS direct, me personally, but I have had, or I'm sorry, I said WIS, Intech, I got the two confused. I haven't talked to them personally, and I wanted to talk to our attorney before I made any inquiries to them, you know. And with that, I believe that, because we have said all along is, the labor community that's reached out to me said is, no matter, even if they don't want to sign a project labor agreement, which if they're getting $200 million for a loan from the federal government, they basically have to use that, or they don't get that loan, because that's what everybody made the assumption that that would be. That they, so far, I have been told by labor leaders they're unwilling to sign any kind of agreement. All they've done is awarded the contract to Clayco, which is a double-breasted company out of Chicago. When they do work in Iowa and Illinois, they do work fair, but then when they do work like at Fort Wayne at the airport, they have not always done work fair. So that's all I have at this point. But I did reach out to our attorney and ask what are our options? If so, what can we do? Because they stood right here and said they were using local labor, as we all heard.
Yeah, so, thank you, President Thacker. As he alluded to, and Councilperson Weger reached out to me at the end of last week as well. I did make contact with Richard Shagley, the counsel for Intech here at the tax abatement, and that was on Friday. And he indicated that he was talking with the president of Intech about that situation specifically, and it's probably, over the course of the beginning of this week, I would hope that conversation has taken place, or at least an attempt has been made, and I will be following up with him. But I have looked at the statute regarding tax abatements, and, the things that are represented on the SB1 form that come in with the request are how many jobs are going to be created. So nothing to do with, that pre-construction workforce is not part of the SB1. I'm not saying that representations regarding that issue were not made at the meeting by any means, but it's not a representation that's made on the form. And then the capital project associated with it, and then what sort of abatement and for how long. So it's a very simple form, and the statute lines out reasons that you can call the abatement back up for misrepresenting something that was, put under the penalties of perjury on that form, i.e. the jobs that were created and the capital that was invested. So in terms of assessing the abatement, in my opinion, the statute limits it to those two issues, to the issues that are applicable for the form that comes in year to year. But as I told Vicki and Todd last week, I understand the point that that conversation was definitely part of the whole issue surrounding the abatement. And, I think I don't want to call it an issue of first impression, but it's not something that I've been able to find a case on point that you can look towards and say, okay, well, they potentially misrepresented something, or, I don't want to throw that around lightly. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but whatever happened, assessing that from where we're at now and judging what the best next step is from the council's perspective, I'm committed to bringing you that information and all available options that you have. So it's definitely on my radar and something that will be followed up on before the end of this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Reports from committees. First of all, Chairman of the Budget Committee, you have anything you'd like to report at this time?
Well, we're plugging away on the budget. It's a booger. We have another meeting on, we've met a few times. We have another meeting on Thursday. Cheryl has been a yeoman, I'm telling you, and her crew is just amazing. I don't know how they keep at it as they do, but they have plugged away, and we're making some progress. I hope that we can see the light of day here in next week, maybe get it so that we can present it. I'm hopeful. My eyeballs don't fall out of my head.
For the October meeting?
We have to have it for the October meeting, so that's when we, by law, will pass it.
Okay.
And that's about it. Everybody's welcome to come to the October meeting if they want to drop dead of boredom.
Baker Tilly Subcommittee, did you talk about any of that last week? Okay, so the Baker Tilly Subcommittee had some recommendations. I read that. It was in the minutes of the Sunshine. You read those recommendations to the full council. So they also have met. And other than that, if anybody has any questions of any of the committees, we can address that at this time. Okay, resolution and ordinance other than appropriations. We have the first reading of the binding units 2023 annual budget, and that would be on our page 4. And I think that would be, I would look to our auditor for that.
Okay, I'll make it simple. The notice to taxpayers is available online at www.budgetnotices.in.gov or by calling 888-739-9826. And complete details of budget estimates by fund and department may be seen by visiting the offices of these units of government: the Terre Haute International Airport, Vigo County Solid Waste Management District, Honey Creek Fire Protection District, the New Goshen Fire Protection District, the Lost Creek Fire Protection District, the Prairton Fire Protection District, the Riley Fire Protection District, Sugar Creek Fire District, and the Capital Improvement Board of Managers.
Any questions regarding the first reading of the binding units of 2023 annual budget? If you would, Mr. Auditor, the first reading of the Vigo County 2024 budget, which is on our page 14 for the council.
And again, the notice to taxpayers. The notice to taxpayers is available online at www.budgetnotices.in.gov or by calling 888-739-9826. Complete details and budget estimates for any fund or department of Vigo County may be found at Vigo County Auditor's Office.
Okay. Any questions regarding that first reading of the 2024 budget? If not, we'll move on to ordinance relating to appropriation. So under the ordinance relating to appropriation, I had a request after the agenda had been made, and I was told that Thrive has a board meeting tonight, and they would appreciate the opportunity if they could go so they could get back to their board meeting. So if with that, I would like to take item number 7 and move it up to the first item that we're going to address tonight. Right?
Hello, councilmen and councilwomen. Thank you so much for the opportunity tonight. I just want to start off by saying that I don't envy you and the responsibility that you guys have here in Vigo County and all the tough decisions that you have to make tonight and ongoing. So many of the issues I think I've sat and I've listened to at a lot of the council meetings, and especially tonight, really indicate and illustrate some of the core issues that are facing us in Vigo County as well as our region. And it comes with a declining population, with an aging population, where we're losing, prime members of our workforce, where we have low per capita income, and where we struggle to make ends meet in the day-to-day lives, and we see inflation creep up, and so many other issues that really just affect our community. And you can see them all kind of coalescing tonight here in this room, just with some of the topics that have been up for discussion. And it really does put a strain on our councils and on our workers and really on our entire region. And so where I'm here today is to answer questions on our housing proposal, because I really look at the ARPA dollars is a one-time infusion that we may never see again in our lifetimes. And it's a one-time infusion into our communities and what it can build for the next generation and for really years to come. By investing in housing, that creates the opportunity to grow your tax base, to raise your per capita income, to increase the ability for millions more in tax revenue to solve so many of the problems you're hearing here tonight. And I really think that this investment of $5 million into our housing is really going to be the catalyst that our community needs to go through the next generation. And you're going to see a lot of these problems that you're facing now, budgetary-wise, be resolved in the upcoming years as we're able to grow that tax base, as you're able to fulfill more jobs for your workforce. Alone, we've talked and heard about Intech and the casino and so many other great industries that are coming here with near 1,000 new jobs. Where are we going to get that population, and where are they going to live? So I really think this housing investment is a step in the right direction, and it's not going to be able to do all 1,000 units, hopefully, in the next 2 years, but it's going to put us on a path that we can continue to build housing units at an escalated production schedule that would not normally take place moving forward without the investment. So I'm here to answer any questions, and how can I be helpful to the council?
Anyone have questions for Ryan under the Thrive?
Mr. President, I would like to say that I think you've done a really admirable job of educating the community about this project. And the newspaper additionally has made an effort to educate people about the housing issue. And this is an obvious problem. If I've always read the Holmes insert in the newspaper. There's almost nothing to read anymore because there are no homes for sale. And it could be a real, it will be a real boom in the community, for sure.
Yeah.
You better get busy, little mister, and start building some houses.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're ready to get going.
As I mentioned earlier, when I said that we talked about the money, this money that we're looking at tonight, this $5 million, as well as the other $2.3 million that we're going to be addressing tonight, that all comes out of that $10 million that is from lost revenue during COVID, the $10 million. And so the only problem I have with the housing project is betting on the come so that we have more tax base when our employees need assistance now here. So we're struggling with that balancing of it that we want to do. I definitely believe there's a need for housing. I met with yourself and Senator Ford this morning, and you guys have it's a very good program ahead of us. So it's just whether or not we have the money to do that, or if we're going to put more money towards some of our employees, or a combination of that. So that was my concern that I've been struggling with today. So, any other questions?
One of the questions, and it's not so much directed at you, because you have put it into the types of people that are serving, but I really want to stress again, whatever committee we use to approve these projects, if you look at the materials that you sent to us, it had even said underneath it that on the kind of guidelines, like including like realtors and business and community members and so on, one of the areas had said something like recommendation, not necessarily elected officials. And I tend to agree with that. I think, we do a lot, and I think we could advise, and I think we can speak on a lot of things. But I think we have to be cautious, and, it's not my job to necessarily pick. I think the council just has one member that they get to pick for it. But I think we have to be cautious to not be partisan. I think we need to be cautious to look at new ideas, faces, experiences, fresh eyes, and I've stressed that quite a bit. So I know that we can have some elected officials on it, that very well, might be part of it. But I do think looking at that committee very carefully and seeing how we progress. On that note, I currently sit on the board for Thrive, and so with this vote, I just think it might be a little bit of a conflict. But I can stress the importance of getting moving on some aspect of this. Your board has been very well run, I've been really impressed, and so I know I'm confident on how you do things. It's just a matter of where we go with it from here.
Could I address that for just a second? Mark Lincolnbeard, Vigo County Commissioner. I couldn't agree more with Ryan's introduction there. I think he hit the nail on the head. It is a priority. You build it and they will come. We've got to have housing. As far as this committee, I am going to be a part of this committee, and I will include, you to help or whoever from the council. We will get the right people. This will not be a political thing. We will get different people from different demographics, from different businesses and all that. I can assure you that, and we will work with you hand in hand to make sure we get the right people and people that you would like on there also.
And not that that's our area, but that's also going to have to be with the city too, because the city has a role. It's a great way to work together, but also I think, as it goes in front of the city council too, they will have some similar type questions.
Yes.
Mark, you may know this, but Ryan, do you know how many houses we have on the market now?
I don't off the top of my head right now. I wouldn't want to misspeak. Mark, do you know how many we have exactly?
I would guess it's between around 75 at the top end, and that is at all levels. $15,000 house in a really bad shape up to a $600,000 house.
Okay. As Ryan stated, we gave abatements for 750 jobs coming, with Intech and Wabash Valley and Steel Dynamics last year, that including the casino. You said over 1,100 jobs probably. A big portion of that we have given abatements to. I think the dollar amount you're asking for is way too small, but I know that's all we have to deal with. But the fact that we've got 73, 75 houses on the market, I don't know where, if we're expecting to get tax money out of this, I don't know where we are planning on housing them if we don't do something. So I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. I'm very confident. I don't know how I could adequately tell you the confidence level that I have in this, but this investment will pay long-lasting dividends to every single person and worker and unit of government and business in our community for decades and decades to come. It isn't, this is the next kind of step forward, I truly believe, is investing in our future as Vigo County and West Central Indiana. We have to have the housing to support the growth that we're seeing. Otherwise, it will collapse.
I would just like to reiterate how hard Ryan has worked over the last year, and we have worked hand in hand with our subcommittees. And, you know, at times I was frustrated because it wasn't moving fast enough, and I apologize for that. But in the end of the day, I think we got it right. I think we've got the right balance of what we're doing here. You know, our future's bright. It is, but we've got these businesses coming, and the last thing we want them doing is living in Greencastle or Sullivan or anywhere else. We've got to get this right, and I think we're in going the right direction here.
Any other? Oh, go ahead.
Do you know where the executives for the casino are living at right now? What communities?
I've only heard through hearsay, but very few are living in our community.
Okay. I think, you know, one of the challenges we have right now in this community is a declining population, which we're all aware of, and that's attributable for several reasons. I think one of the main reasons that we can all agree upon is the quality and condition of our high schools and the shape they're in. We have a lot of people moving to other counties to go to high schools, and we have a lot of people within this county, their students commute to high schools in surrounding counties, so it's a very big problem. So I think two of the biggest challenges we face as a community and as a county is the condition of schools and housing. And I think the two will play hand in hand, right? If we support growth in housing, it's going to be growth in population, which gives greater opportunities for enhancing the schools from their current state, which I think we can all agree that needs to occur. I think there's been a lot of debate and discussion on how you get there, but I think this is one way that can help us get there in a more timely manner. And as Commissioner Klinkenberg had spoke to, having less than 100 houses on the market right now, some of which are not going to be desirable for those people that may work at Intech or the casino or places like that, is a real challenge too. You know, I've talked to people in the community, and they think I'm crazy when I say I think we might have too many jobs available right now for what we have to offer. And a lot of that has to do with housing, and a lot of that has to do with what the high schools are like. You know, my fear is having all these jobs come into this community, a huge influx, and most of these families live in surrounding counties, even maybe counties as far away as Hendricks. And that does not do much for us here in Vigo County. So for me, I think this is an extremely important project. I think it's important for the growth of the community and the sustainability of what we have in place. Because again, we continue to see a declining population, and at some point we need to try to combat that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Ryan, how much, I know we kind of got a jump start with the Ready Grant. Could you kind of just update how many houses and, I know that's more West Central Indiana, not just Vigo County, but is there a direct impact here in Vigo County?
Yes, absolutely. So, out of the Ready Grant Round 1, we awarded $952,000. That's 130 new housing units. I think we leveraged $25.7 million in private investment in that. And Vigo County got the lion's share of that, with all but one project going with new housing development here in Vigo County.
Is there Ready Round 2 coming? Is that, I know that's kind of a,
So there's still a second round of Homes for the Future with the Ready Dollars
Okay.
that will most likely, based on the current, the current demand and the ask that we're seeing with builders coming to the table, we will easily use up the remaining funds with that. And then in addition, there will be a Ready like 2.0
That's what
from
I
the
was
state
thinking, okay.
coming out. And that will be divided up into instead of one $500 million chunk like it was this last time, it'll be spaced out at $250 million over the 2-year period in with that. And I will also be making an ask again for additional Ready
But
dollars
that's
because.
up in the air.
But
I mean, it's
that
just
will be up in the air. I'll make
Okay.
the ask, doesn't mean that it'll go anywhere.
Thank you.
Because we are, I mean, the initial investment will be a great catalyst and that will get us going tremendously. But again, we didn't get into the situation overnight and we're not gonna get out of it overnight. So it'll take several years of steady investment.
Okay, thank you.
If anybody else, if there's no other questions, then we can entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the request of $5 million. I assume that's what when you said motion, as that's what the request was. Is there any questions? Okay, let's do, Mr. Harder, let's do a voice vote, or a roll call, please.
Mr. Loudermilk,
Aye.
Ms. Alsop,
Aye.
Ms. Sweger,
Aye.
Ms. Thies,
Abstain.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Mr. Thacker.
Nay. And I gotta say, I think it's a great program. I just don't think we can commit the $5 million right now when we have needs for other needs for our county. That is, where I think if we did half of that, it would get you guys a great start, and we can revisit it later, as you said that you will with other Ready. So, it's not that I'm not in support of it, I'm just not in support of the $5 million. So, but the motion passes, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you all so very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I will come back with a great report and show you how we're generating new tax revenue for you.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, I also had a request from Commissioner Klinkenberg, because he's on the board for the Thrive, and so he'd like to get his items done so he could move forward on that. So with that said, I believe the one that you had on that was the maintenance building, is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes, we also have 911.
Okay, so let's do the one that is our number 4, additional appropriation from the edit, or, yeah, you both have the edit and the ARPA both on that, so if we do 4 and 5 first, is that okay?
For the maintenance building?
Yes, for the
Yes.
maintenance building?
Okay.
And
Good
Vigo-
evening, President Thacker, members of the council, Mark Klinkenbeard, Vigo County Commissioner. As you all know, or hopefully know, this building started out as a small pole barn to house our building maintenance staff. As we got into the project, we became aware of several other county needs, including document storage, vehicle maintenance, and a county morgue. With this one building, we are addressing the needs of 4 departments. We realize $1.5 million is a lot of money, but nothing is getting cheaper and will be more down the road. In our opinion, it's time for a proactive approach instead of always reacting to the current crisis. We believe this is a step in the right direction. That's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this project. And we also have others here that could speak on behalf of this if they'd like.
And I believe there was a request that, when I read the minutes from the last meeting, there was a request to have that itemized and broken down, and that was submitted that was sent out as well per the request of the council?
Yes,
So everybody in council should have received that. That gave the percentage breakdown for the public defenders, the sheriff, the maintenance department, and, what was the fourth one? The coroner. So-
And I sent that email, but I have it if you need it.
No, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that was, you followed up on it and gave them what they asked for. Is there any questions for either Gretchen with the public defenders or for Mr. Klinkenbeard with the commissioners? Yes.
I don't necessarily have a question, just make a statement. I think some of these, as I spoke to Commissioner Klinkenbeard and I spoke to Commissioner Morris in the past, I think some of these are good things. As you said, it did balloon, the project did balloon from a pole barn to what it is now, and I guess sometimes those things can happen. I guess the one that really gives me heartburn is the sheriff's garage, honestly, and I stated that before. I know that the project's been cut down from 3 bays with 2 lifts to 2 bays with 1 lift, but looking at what you'd sent to us, at 1,920 square feet, it's 28% of the project at $419,000. I personally don't believe that police should get into the business of repairing cars. It occurred at the city police department for many years, and it no longer is a practice that we have. In my viewpoint and in my opinion, it was a failed system, and it was inadequate. And one of the concerns I have with this, not only the price tag and paying a sheriff's deputy to change oil and work on vehicles, is the fact that we are taking a deputy off the road to do those things. And I guess secondary, what are the qualifications of that individual, and what type of liability does that put us in? Perhaps a vehicle isn't repaired correctly and somebody gets hurt.
Well, I apologize, Derek, Mr. Fell is out of town, could not be here. George McAdams is next door, working at the juvenile center on an issue there. They believe that they can save money, the county money, by doing oil changes, brakes, things like that on their own, similar to what the city does by farming it out to wastewater treatment. And as you said, they had a bigger wish list, and we pared it down to 1 lift, 1 bay. So, you know, I think it's a good project. I think it's, you know, needed. To your point of whether a deputy does that or they hire a mechanic, I think that's a fair point and something that we can address or possibly, you know, I understand that.
I guess a couple other things I would say. Was there any consideration to having discussions with County Highway about their mechanics doing some of that work?
No.
Okay. And then also, I'm guessing this amount, I think it was $419,000, if I remember correctly. I assume that doesn't include toolboxes and tools and different machinery that would need to.
It does include the lift, and I believe it does. I would have to go back, I'm sorry, and look at what, there was a request by them for some tools and things like that. A
In
lift
addition
being
to
part
this,
of it.
Or as a part of this? Do you know?
Pardon me?
As a part of the 419? Or in
Yes,
addition to
I
it?
believe so. The lift was for sure, and I believe there was some other tools that they requested. Again, I apologize that they couldn't be here.
No, and I don't.
We got moved up, and I was supposed to text George, and I didn't know when we were going to be on here, so I
No,
apologize.
and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I appreciate that. I just wasn't sure when we were going to fall. It's okay. Would either of you like to have any questions?
No.
Dr. Myers?
If no other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve 2023-56. We have to do this individually, right?
Yeah, we're on the
56,
edit.
edit maintenance building new.
Request. Is there a second on that motion?
I will second.
Motion's been made and second. Is there any other question? Not, let's do a roll call vote on that since we've had some.
Mr. Loudermilk,
Nay?
Ms. Alsop,
Aye.
Ms. Weger,
Aye.
Ms. Thies,
Aye.
Mr. Norris. Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thacker.
Aye. And so a motion carried 5-2. And at the same time, while you're up there, it's the same thing, but we have to, the way you guys made the request this time, half of it out of edit, half of it out of ARP,
Correct.
correct? So it's the same project,
Yes.
if anybody has any additional questions, but the funding was done two different ways of revenue stream.
Yes, originally it was not going to be out of ARPA, but we did that
Yeah.
to kind of help the process along here. And
Okay.
originally, also, I think you all know, the jail came in at $1.6 million under budget. That was another reason how we got thinking about this whole process, you know. But in the meantime, that had to be turned back to general fund. So that savings has been turned back to the general fund. Am I correct on that?
Lit special. I
Cheryl
believe
and
is where it
Jim.
went to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I don't always get my funds right, but.
That's all right. That's why we have auditors here to help us. with that.
Exactly.
Okay, so any questions for Commissioner Clinkenbeard regarding the use of half the money coming out of the ARPA fund?
Mr.
Not?
President,
Yes?
I move we approve 2023-57 ARPA grant for maintenance building new.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and second. Any other question?
I just have one question. If by chance something like this happens again where we get lucky and it would go underfunded, or not underfunded, we don't want that.
Come in under budget.
Under budget, where would that money go back, I guess would be my question. Would that be determined at the council or?
That goes back to the place it came from.
So
So-
half of it would go back to.
So
Debit.
half and half, we would split it between the two? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
We hope that it
Let's-
comes under budget.
Let's go for
We have a
that.
little breathing room in there, so.
Okay, yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were able to, if we could get some of that back into ARPA, that we could. Thanks.
Okay, if no other questions, then we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Loudermilk,
Nay?
Ms. Olson,
Aye.
Ms. Wager,
Aye.
Ms. Thies,
Aye.
Mr. Norris, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Thacker.
Aye, so motion carries as well.
Thank you.
So while you're right up there and we're trying to get you out of here, trying to work with effort of working together here.
Thank you.
So then you wanted to talk about, while you're up there, the item number 3, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Additional appropriation 2023-55 E91 license contractual and new equipment?
Anything that has to do with E91 move, and I believe that does. Cheryl, can you help me
number
out?
2?
Which ones?
No, okay, number 3 and number 2, okay.
Yeah.
Because one of them is coming out of the 911, if I'm understanding, the other one comes out of Lit PSAP, is that right?
It's the move to the new building and the basically contracted the state, do what they can on 911 fund, do 911 on the rest of the staff.
So the 911 fund was,
Down into the account based on property.
so the request out of the number 3 of the 2023-55 was 223,000. 223,250, okay, I had it, okay. And then the additional appropriation out of the Lit PSAP was $670,025? Okay, so, let's go in reverse order here. Let's go with the, any questions regarding the 2023-55 E911?
I don't have a spiel for this one, so I think it's all we talked about last week. Just to give you a quick update, they are moving right along. We are, construction is well under progress, and we believe that we're going to have them in there by the end of the year. It's going to be, we'll do everything we can. On a different note, in a couple months ago, you did approve money for some maintenance on that building and the parking lot, and both of those are all done. If you want to drive past there, looks like a totally different building. The parking lot is sealed. Gives us a little extra life on that. So thank you for doing that also.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Clinkenbeard on 2023-55 E91 license, contractual, and equipment new? Not, I would accept the motion.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you
So,
very much.
One more.
Don't go.
Don't leave yet. We gotta do the lit correctional rehab.
You're pretty close, but
Lit, and so this one is 2023-54 lit PSAP, contractual office furniture, equipment new. So this is the same project, different funding of $670,025.
Motion to approve.
Motion,
I'll second.
second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I think you can make the meeting.
Great, thank you.
15 minutes. Okay. And I apologize for all the confusion tonight, but we would then revert back to number one. Item number one is additional appropriation 2023-44 lit correctional rehab supplement to drug court. Sorry to make you guys wait. I know how it is in court. You hate to have people waiting.
Chris Newton.
Jim. Didn't even get a smile out of him when I said it this time.
Got 2 more meetings to go to tonight.
Oh, well, you should have told me. I would have left you in first. Any questions for this? I know that they presented last week. I read the minutes. I'm aware of what they're trying to do here. They're asking for $25,000 to finish out this year for drug court, correct? If there are any questions, if not, we accept the motion.
I think David's gonna.
Oh, David has a question.
Did I guess Cheryl left, but did the county get an opioid settlement? Do we know? How much is that? Can that be used for this?
There's one portion of it that can be, one portion that could be used for anything, and then another is restricted. And that probably can be.
Is that for next year though, or can that be considered for 2023?
No, it's cash we've got on hand now.
Okay.
But you gotta have an appropriation
Yeah.
to spend it.
Judy's gonna go after. There she is.
Cheryl, do you know how much over in settlement was that we got, and can we use it for drug court?
I think it was 70-some thousand in unrestricted, and I can't remember the restricted.
I believe that you could probably use, I believe you can use some of it for that. We do need to go back because, if you remember right, I believe that you had someone come in and request some or discuss it with you. When you first got the settlement, it might have been Brandon Halleck, but we never got a full request.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
So that was a discussion, but I believe that you can use some. Recently, we just got in,
Would that money go into the general fund, and it would
no,
just
that
come
is,
back out, or is it?
it's a separate fund. It best be maintained separately.
So we could look for that to possible for use for your budget request for next year as well, right?
That might be the better way to go ahead,
So,
because
yeah.
we've got an immediate need right
Yeah,
now.
yes, you do.
25,000.
Yes, you do.
And I think that's a modest
That's-
request under the circumstances, but I think Councilman Thompson brings up a good point that I was not aware of that.
Revenue
And,
stream.
I think that's something that should be used, for this next year, and there may be other projects that should be earmarked for.
Yes.
And warrants more discussion amongst ourselves and with the council.
Yes.
So I think that's a good point.
And I agree with Judge Newton as far as, how we have to go about it. It's, right now, we're dealing with keeping things going till the end of the year. I know when we had talked about it before in the last meeting, we were kind of short on council members and I had a couple questions. And I think we're to the point where we can move forward if we need to. Plus, Cheryl, would that change, because we've advertised it this way, we need to do this. We couldn't just take it from that allocation now.
You can't, and as an
Okay.
auditor, I would prefer you make this appropriation
Yeah,
tonight.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. I just want to make sure that I stress that.
And to add for the opioid, maybe I can ask our attorney to look into making sure the restricted and unrestricted.
Yeah, I don't believe
there's an issue, but.
Yeah, the impetus behind the settlements was to address problems that had occurred because of the opioid price. I mean, a diversion court is clearly a response to something like that. I can't imagine that that would be a inappropriate use of those funds, but I will confirm that it is appropriate.
And if I can, before the question, Mr. Councilman Loudermilk had his hand up, were you wanting a question or were you in motion? What, I don't want to ignore you there.
No, I was ready to make a motion.
Okay, that's what I thought. Are you ready for a motion then?
They're ready,
Yeah,
they're gonna go.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Boy, there's a rush on that.
I'm gonna
Motion made
get
and
a
second.
deputy sheriff to escort you guys, okay?
All those in, any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Keep your hand down. Was that a wave or was that?
I'm
we
waving
voted
you
twice?
goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay,
Keep going.
Thank you all very much.
thank you. We have now successfully navigated this, through,
The
we're back to number
Six.
7.
6 or 6.
Are you a recreational trails?
Oh,
Is that
yeah, we
where
did
we're at?
recreation, we have to do recreation trail. Thank you, help keep me straight. This is the Riley Trail, number 6 on this, and it is project number additional appropriation 2023-45, ARPA Grant Fund, Recreation Trails. It's on our page 22. And we have a pair to draw to here, highway and parks.
Just here to answer any questions.
For clarification, I think they will make this. Part of this is for the Riley Trail. Part of this is for Dewey Point.
Right,
And the other part to connect to the West Terre Haute.
right.
Lily, okay. I know that a couple council members weren't here last week, so I just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure.
and reading the minutes, this initially came to us and then got pulled, it was $500,000, but then when it came back now and it's been expanded to include the ones that the auditor, deputy auditor, Loudermilk just stated, so now it's a request for $1 million of the
Yeah.
ARPA fund.
And I can run through that real quick. Riley Spur, I've been working with Larry, commissioners, to come up with a few other improvements to that Riley Spur. The overlook at Dewey Point, Duke Energy vacated those towers, took out the lines, and we've conceptualized that since about 2015-16 as an overlook to build out Dewey Point. And right now, the Wabashiki Trail dead ends at Sugar Creek Scrap, Highway 40. We hope, we're working with Duke Energy for some money to get across 40 and to Old Paris, and then that's where this will pick up to come down the edge of Old Paris and connect to the ball field with the existing walkway. So, anything on that?
Okay. Any questions for the two gentlemen regarding the Riley Trail, Dewey Point, and West Terre Haute Loop? Is that what we're
Yeah,
calling it?
Old Paris.
Old Paris?
Old Paris Road.
Old Paris Road, okay, thank you. Any questions for them? If not, I accept the motion.
Nancy, you should make this one.
I make a move that we accept his motion.
Second.
Motion made in second. You gotta be a little quicker, Marie.
I know, I love my
Any
part.
questions?
What's West T?
Oh,
I taught over there.
We
okay.
lived over there.
That's true.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm hopeful that this will lead to some other grants too. This will be a good opportunity, so thank you.
We are now ready for number 8. Additional appropriation 2023-58 ARPA grant, Rose Venture relocation.
So, good evening. I'm Brian Doherty, and the Senior Director for Rose Home Adventures. I'm primarily here to answer questions tonight, but I would like to say I'm an engineer. I solve other people's problems for a living, and I've sat in these meetings for the last couple of months just to kind of get the lay of the land. You guys have your hands full. I hope you see our project as a wise investment and as a tool to help solve some of the other problems that are going on in the county and in the region. 23 years of running Rose Home Adventures, one of the things we've learned is that to create the educational experience we're looking for our students, we need to rely on corporate partners in the area to bring us the projects that we can work on to generate that kind of experience. And the only way that we can expand the experience base we're looking for is to help lift up the number of opportunities and the amount of innovation, the amount of entrepreneurship that's going on in the area so that we get more project flows, so that we can get more students involved. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. Within that, I'll answer any questions you've got.
Any questions for? What?
I'm pretty familiar with Rose-Hulman Ventures, and I also know that sometimes students do like senior projects that are usually through their departments. Are those two separate things, or do those senior projects sometimes make their way
They're
into
opposite
ventures?
Yeah, they're opposite ends of a spectrum. So student projects, the senior capstone, senior design projects, there's generally not much cost associated with those to whoever they're working for. And what you get out of that is totally a student-driven effort, right? And students have a right to fail.
Right.
With ventures, the projects are actually funded by the client, solely funded by the client. One of my jobs is to make sure that we run cost neutral to the institute and we're not inflating the tuition costs. And the clients expect a little bit more, right? So we're kind of on the other end of the quality spectrum. Now, there's a lot of crosstalk. Sometimes there are things that are proven out early as a senior project, and if they get a little bit of traction there, then it makes sense to spend a little bit more money on it at my house. So.
And just as we're looking at not only, tax, ARPA money for this, but one thing I always kind of try to look for and ask about, I did this with St. Mary's and Indiana State too, is community collaboration. Is there any room for collaboration either through ventures, or I know sometimes through Rose-Hulman they work with like our robotics teams or different things like that. Is there potential to have something with our like engineering programs in the schools, even if they just come out and watch or mentor or see some things?
There's a great deal of untapped potential there. One of the primary things is Rose-Hulman, like anybody, is doing a lot of strategic planning. One of the 4 core tenets of our Tier 2 strategic plan is to make to instill the area with a mindset of innovation and entrepreneurship, right? And one of the things that I hope to create with Innovation Grove is a lot more capacity for the high school projects or even younger. Get them out, get them to see what these kind of jobs are like, what kind of opportunities there are, not just as an engineer or a scientist, but as an entrepreneur.
Because we have the CEO program now too.
Yeah, and I'm on the board of that.
Yeah, so you see how that can fit, and that continues to be for us, not only, for you guys as a recruiting tool, maybe to work with kids at younger age, but also that continued mindset of keeping people in our community.
Yeah.
So I would something I would continue to ask for is just that community input and collaboration, because we are looking at, public dollars for this.
No, I totally agree with you there. I'm actually on the board for the CEO program. That's one of the pitches I've been making with fellow board members is, look, at some point, as CEO grows up, there's natural synergies here that we need to take care of.
Right.
And again, we don't get the educational experience we're trying to find without those synergies, right? I talked about this last week. Rose-Hulman is special because our faculty aren't doing research. They're in the classroom teaching. They're not doing research. They're not publishing. But the downside of that is they're not creating new fantastic technologies that didn't exist yesterday. So if we're going to have projects that are real for our students to work on, they're coming from externally, not from internally.
So I guess I'd have a question, and I apologize, I wasn't here last week. I understand the ventures is a great tool. Why do we need to relocate and $500,000 of public money for a private university?
So we've been doing what we're doing now for 23 years.
Okay.
And we create a significant amount of experience for our students by driving a significant amount of value for companies in the region. At that, we're really only working with a very small slice of the industries that are out there and only impacting a fairly small slice of the student population. So it's time, a lot of people would tell you we're really late. It's past time for us to invest in some growth, create new skill sets and new resources that allow us to touch other pieces of industry, thereby creating opportunities for other types of students. If we're going to spend that money and invest, we don't want to do it where we're located now. 23 years ago, that was a 5.5 mile drive and it was 3 stoplights. Today, it's a 6.5 mile drive and there's 8 stoplights and that's only gonna get worse as the development. Yeah, they created the roundabout, so it's another mile to get.
Oh, I was gonna say, not an engineer, but how to get further, right?
Yeah, we now drive a half a mile out of the way and drive a half mile back.
Good, fair point.
And then there are some things that we did internally that have changed the course structure throughout the day. So there's actually fewer class periods for student interns to leave campus and come to work, and it's actually made it much more challenging. So if we're gonna make this investment in growth, we're gonna make it across the street where we bought the Homa property, right? So that's why we're moving.
Fair enough.
But it's more than moving Ventures. Ventures will become the anchor, the linchpin for Innovation Grove. Innovation Grove is new business units that I discussed that'll operate similarly to Ventures, but financially independent. So every business unit will have to create its own revenue each year. And then we also want to create space for these corporate partner clients to come in and land their people there. So these aren't Rose-Hulman-owned resources. We don't have that kind of bandwidth. Land their people there to work in conjunction with the other business units at Innovation Grove, work with the other resources that are available at Rose-Hulman, at ISU, Ivy Tech even. One of these business units will potentially be an ISO-compliant pilot manufacturing facility to help people do their early production work. Tremendous amount of educational resources that could come out of that, as well as helping the area. So all of that will get grown along that 42 corridor there on the property that we bought.
Very good.
42 and 46 right there with the airport. It's terrific.
Okay. Any other questions for Rose-Hulman Ventures? If not, entertain a motion.
I move that we favorably pass this 2023-58.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Marie, David, thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we're ready for, looks like additional appropriation, or salary ordinance, number 9. Salary ordinance 2023-59. A, it is E911, adjust pay. Adjust pay rates, I'm sorry. And so what we have here is the auditor has put together some information for us, and so she's getting ready to hand that out here. This was part of a discussion today at the budgeting. We talked about this for the overall budget as well as for this salary ordinance coming up. The next item is number 10. Girl.
Oh, dear. Okay, cover your left eye and read this.
So it's important that we address this on item 9, because how we address this in item 9 impacts how we're going to do our salary ordinance on item number 10. And so we need to know, we have some, I know when Cheryl gets back there, I'll have her explain a little bit this before you start there, Vicki. Cheryl, would you like to, you or Michael want to tell what we have here?
Yeah. I will definitely try. So on the form that Cheryl has handed out, everything in red is the request that has been made by E911. The information in black is as it exists now, and a representation is what the 25th percentile would look like and what the midpoint would look like. Essentially, the change comes from the modification of the grade that comes along with their request for their increase in pay request is accompanied with an increase in the grade request.
Yes. So they have the current hourly rate, the current salary, their current grade, as you said, and then the 25% is in black, would be that if we did the 25% increase that we talked about in the subcommittee and then the budget.
That's right.
Would be in black, yes. And then the increase amount in black would be that of $73,676.35. Then if you look at the red request in red, or the request grade in red, and then the 25 percentile then in red, and then the increased amount in red, it is $150,356.25. Then if you go on to say that if you wanted that to see the request they made is in midpoint, that is all the way, the fourth one from the right, and that total would be $285,749.90 in red. It's the far right. So there's basically three options there. If we do what has been, came out of the budget committee today, is that we would try to get everybody that's coming up here to the 25 percentile, then that would be the column there, increased amount that's in the black, $73,676.35. But depending on what we do here, how it's going to impact overall the salary ordinance of number 10. And if you have any questions for E911, Vicki is here, and you can ask any questions you want.
Vicki, you came and spoke to us last Tuesday. Has anything changed with E911 since last Tuesday?
Since last week, I've had another person put in a resignation letter. I have another person that they've been there like 3 years. I've had another person that's been there 28 years that has went to another job, been through the drug testing and the physical, so I'm expecting that to come anytime. So right now, Sarah and I are going to be covering some shifts.
So you've lost one in the last week, and there's two that are looking for other employment that you're aware of? Is that?
Yes.
So with the loss of one, and we don't know what will happen with the other two, what does that put your staffing level at currently?
It will put me at 14 that's trained, and I have 3 that is in training right now that just started.
How long have you been part of the Vigo County Dispatch?
28 years, going on 29 years.
Have the staffing levels ever been this low?
No.
I assume during that time the call volumes increased substantially. Is that fair?
Yes. We average around 195,000 calls, text, admins a year.
And 28 years ago, you would work for the city. Is that correct?
Yes, I worked for the city for 12 years, and then we've been at county for 16 years.
So I guess for those that aren't aware, the city and county had separate dispatch centers for some time, and then they merged about 2 decades ago now?
Yeah.
20 years ago?
Yeah. No. We became county employees January 1st of 2007.
Okay.
And, you know, right now, we're just at a critical point. I mean, how do I function running my job and the admin side when I'm having to work a radio? Because I have no one to cover it.
And I would just maybe reiterate, because there were 2 that weren't present last week. Just a side note, years ago, I worked in the jail as a jail officer, and at that time, the dispatchers had parity with jail officers, much like jail officers had parity with community corrections officers and juvenile detention officers. So that was a thing that was in existence back then.
Did they say on the ones that have left on their exit interviews, was it working conditions, pay, combination?
It was a
better job
combination. They
offer?
went to another job with, you know, no weekends, no holidays, you know, a job like that with better growth, with less stress on them. And the one that just turned in her resignation was out of the blue. She says that she doesn't feel like that we are appreciated and she doesn't want to work here anymore.
I just have a question. As Councilman Loudermilk mentioned parity, do these grades and what we received as requested, does that put them in parity with the jailers, or does that actually put them
Exceeds it.
at a different rate?
The requested amount at the 25th percentile hourly rate would put them above the current.
So the one in
rate
red,
for
the one in
jailers.
red.
The one in red.
Okay, and what about the regular 25th percentile?
It's about 55 cents less,
Okay, like total?
yes, for hourly wage.
Per hour.
Oh, per hourly, okay. Yeah, I don't think we did that.
Like I said, I know this was part of the discussion of the budgeting committee today, and anticipating this being part of our agenda tonight, so. If there's not any other questions, I'd accept the motion at this time. Travis, you got one?
I want to see what the actual request is again. I apologize, I got both booklets in front of me right now.
Okay.
I'm trying to multitask here.
Yeah, it's not just the rate, they also requested the midpoint, I believe.
Yeah, I thought the request was the midpoint.
Yeah, and so it's changing of the grade, changing of the percentage, and changing of the shifts to where there's not any assistant shifts supervisors, they're all shift supervisors. So that's it,
Do we have an advertisement on this request?
We didn't do an appropriation because we were waiting to see what you did. So all we have to advertise is the additional appropriation, Councilman Loudermilk. So that would come after you make your decision,
Yeah,
just
and
like
that's why
the
we were-
regular salary ordinance. I'm just waiting to bring all your appropriations at one time to you.
Travis, you got a motion?
I would also like to say this money is not coming out of county general. This is coming out of our 911 funds and our lit money. So no money will be spent by the county general fund.
Similar to the highway
Mhm.
that we've heard a little bit about since we've done that.
We play politics with.
Just saying. I mean, that's a,
And can you speak to, Vicki, are you able to speak to the health of that fund at this point? And does there appear to be sustainability in that fund if we were to do anything?
I did speak to Cheryl and she said it would sustain it through next year.
At which point?
Midpoint, are you talking about?
Well, I guess,
the request was midpoint.
I guess
And
should speak to what the request was first, and then we can work from there, I suppose.
It will sustain it to midpoint. I caution in the future, because eventually it will be higher than the actual revenue coming in for the lit piece out. You're pushing it, but it will sustain it for the next couple of years.
When you say eventually, what's that forecast look like? Couple years? I didn't hear. I didn't hear you say that.
I would say a couple of years, but again, I don't want to say a whole lot because the local income tax is increasing. So we may be just pretty steady. But the fund can handle it. If you're asking me, can the fund handle it and maintain it, that's the answer I'm going to give you. Yes, it can.
On an annual basis, is there much excess now, in light of the fact that the number of employees are down?
Yes, and so more than likely, you won't really be doing that much of an additional appropriation for this year if you go back for 23, depending on, July 1. What you are seeing is for a full year, for a fully staffed for 23.
That's true.
And since she's not been fully staffed, you do have an extra appropriation that has not been.
So regardless, the numbers we see are gonna be reduced from that fund.
The numbers you will see will be reduced.
I've had 23 people for 2 months this year. The rest of the year, I've had 20 and 21. I have positions for 25 people.
Councilman Norris has a question.
Vicki, do you think if the increases were to take place January 1 of 2024, do you think that that would make a difference in getting us in through the budget and stuff like that? Would that make a difference on your staff now, knowing that that's coming?
This is one of my supervisors. She works in there, so she hears all this. Chelsea Hubble, you want to take that?
I would say that that would definitely help as far as retention and recruiting for newcomers, maybe even some that we lost, maybe they'd come back, but we are just at an all-time low, and if we don't do something to change something, nothing's gonna change.
Well, that-
We're in a downward spiral, and we've,
Hopefully coupled with that, if we're able to do under number 10, where we go back and do back to July 1, retro back to that part, but then also increase in 2024.
When, because there's so many grade changes, sorry, Karen. Because there's so many grade changes, had you reached out to Baker Tilly to request any of these grade changes?
I've had meetings every time Baker Tilly has come here.
Okay.
And I voiced my opinion then, and they weren't changed.
And at that time, had you requested the change with the like the assistant and the supervisors or any of that?
Yes.
One of the things I see on here, and I appreciate Councilman Loudermilk bringing up the parity of it, we've seen what happens whenever we raise one group that had parity with somebody else, then it's not long before we have people come knocking on our door saying, hey, we used to have parity with this. That's that's potential, and we're talking, the increase that you're asking for would put you to a parity of about $3 over what the jailers make. Midpoint. Well, that's the request that's in front of us, yeah.
The midpoint
When Caroline has a
jailers
she
right
takes
now
Robitussin, so she can have those one-on-ones again.
are 20/80.
Yeah.
The jailers are 20/80.
28, yeah. They were 20 and then went to 20/80 when they got to 4%, yes. Okay.
And at the 25 percentile, there's no increase for them. For jailer.
And like I said last Tuesday, I have people that were grandfathered in that make more money. So where we are at now in the study, they will not get a raise because they're already over the 25%.
Yeah, we have that, I think we have that for quite a few people. So that means that we're making more than what the study come back for the 25 percentile, yeah. There's a lot of, on this particular sheet, there's a lot of moving parts.
It's what they got last week, Vicki. I emailed you. It's this, just so you know, they're not looking anything any different than.
I see smoke.
It's a complicated puzzle. I think we need to make some motion, just so we can figure it out.
Say so one at a time.
Only if you're gonna change it. You're not gonna change it.
I think, just as we're thinking, because I'm gonna think out loud for a second, I think this issue is like twofold, because we're trying to take off chunks about, obviously, we're looking at the salary side of it and the hourly, but also the grade situation.
Right.
It's just a lot thrown
Right.
at us at once, whereas a lot of, kind of previous issues and things, weren't quite as much of a big chunk. So I think we're just trying to wrap our head around it. If anyone has a brilliant idea, which I do not have, I would love to hear someone throw one out there.
As we said earlier, I know that the budget committee today, they said that what they were proposing to do on item number 10, and that would address part of the E911, and that would get them closer to that parity that we talked about earlier as well. But when you factor in the grade change and the supervisor change and the midpoint change, that makes it a lot more complicated, as you said. So. And I don't believe as a chair I can make a motion.
I think that we leave the grade the same and go to the midpoint. And I think that gives them a bump that retains the employees that are here and gives them some extra incentive for more people to come. I know that's not what we discussed earlier today in the budget meeting. It's kind of like Brad Newman said earlier, our employees are our most important assets. I think that going to the 50th percentile is important, but like I brought up earlier to Vicky, I think making that effective January 1 of 2024 is going to help, and it gives us time to figure out where that funding has to come from. It also gives the departments time to figure out what they have to cut to make it happen.
I can't cut anything.
Well, no, I'm not just talking about you. I'm talking about departments across the board.
Cheryl, would
Because
that
if
be
you
that 2 or
give,
3
if
number?
you give 50% here, effective January 1 of 2024, you're gonna have to give 50% across the board. There's not enough funds there, as we discussed earlier today. Cheryl, you've got those rough numbers.
I believe what Councilman Norris is talking about, one, is we can only levy so much property tax, and the state sets that. And that's across 5 or 6 funds, and unfortunately, those who maybe be paid out of a different fund where there's maybe other revenue coming in, I guess it would get to a situation as, are we increasing some that come out of one fund because they're a different type compared to the others? And with the levied funds, the increase that we got, which is, again, set by the state, which tells us exactly no more can we charge property taxpayers across 5 funds. And then you have to take the circuit breaker into account. Taking all the budgets within those funds, and I think what he's trying to say, if I'm wrong, please correct me as he said it, moving everyone to the midpoint and giving everything that was requested in 2024's budget for everyone is not going to be sustainable. We can't even do it. I understand that the comments have been made that everybody thinks we were flush in cash. We did have some pretty good cash balances, but there's been a lot of stuff going on that has happened the last few years. And when you take a big chunk, as maybe hitting one of the funds for $6 or $7 million, that's a big chunk once you take out of that cash then to try to sustain that. And I think that's where you're going, Councilman Norris. I don't want to overstep if this is
No,
what you were
no,
trying to get out
Yeah.
to.
I mean, an estimate on a levy is $39 million.
Estimate
Circuit
across 5
breakers,
funds.
10-4, so.
So, and I think that's where he's going for. I mean, they are working this budget any way and every way they can. We
But-
all are trying to get everyone up there. I mean, they're doing everything, but I guess where he's going is sustainability in the future.
But my
It
people
might be
can
what
also be,
departments will
excuse me.
give up.
Well, my
Employees
people
or-
can also be paid out of 911 funds.
They can, but again, it goes back to then, yeah, and at that point, you're picking and choosing.
And the number that he's talking about for everybody's clarity, that he's talking about for E911 would be that column, the increase that's in the black. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th one from the right at $203,000. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But we would still remain at our same level.
Same,
That's
yes.
what he was talking
Same
about.
grade.
Same grade.
Same grade.
Grade.
But go to the
Yeah.
Baker
The
Tilly
fif-
mid.
But
Go to
at
the
the
Baker
mid-
Tilly 50th.
And that's where we don't parity the sheriff's department, jailers, and the correctional officers. They're a grade 4. We're a grade 3.
But you're making $2 more than the jailers.
But you're
Not if they're making $20.80 an hour. We make $19.66.
No, once you have this increase, then it would be 2209
Oh,
and 2644.
okay.
2640, 2342. That's that's
Right.
where you get the $203,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, parity works both ways. And so if you want to get to parity and then you pass them by $2, that's not parity anymore. That's when we hear the jailers and the juvenile detention come back and say, you just gave E911 $23 or $2209, and then that's what they're gonna want, the same.
So by doing the point, that column, it will get them financial, hourly, very close parity. It's kind of like choosing one or the other, is kind of what I'm gathering.
But if you did the 25% and you put them in that, then you're
Then
at
they're over.
2147 and they're at 150.
Let's process here.
Do dispatchers receive stipends, Vicki?
My assistant supervisors and the supervisors receive stipends. My supervisors get $1,500 a year. My assistants get $1,000 a year.
So I guess that is one difference to consider. And the jail officers are $28 an hour plus a $1,500 stipend.
I thought all the dispatch got it too. Good question. So that equates to $1. $2,080 payroll.
I think Travis is getting close to it.
Okay.
Calculating. We're just trying to do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and fair.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but not necessarily quick.
You're on salary, correct? So is that not correct?
Hourly?
They're on hourly. Everybody's on an hourly one.
Okay.
Not everybody, but all,
So how many hours a year does that equate to for a jail officer?
2,000.
2080.
2080? Okay.
Yeah.
So that 2080 hours, the $1,500 stipend equates to about 72 cents on the hour. to the 2080, puts them at 2152 roughly an hour. The 25 percentile requested by dispatch is 2147.
$20 a week.
The supervisors were the only one that was found under by Baker Tilly.
You know, just, I guess to note as well, looking at the salary ordinance, is it accurate to say that the juvenile center detention officers also get the $1,500 stipend?
Are you talking about the retention bonus?
Yeah, retention stipend.
Yes, the retention bonus goes to jailers, dispatchers, and juvenile detention officers. I might not have added that column to the dispatchers, I'm sorry, I needed, but the dispatch one, we were waiting to, that includes the 25 percentile at Baker Tilly's. That's why we had to address this first before you. We may have to amend that portion. You would have to make that decision, and we would amend that portion of the salary ordinance depending on what decision you make here.
Retention, okay.
But they do get the retention bonus. They get the $1,500, the
For
dispatchers.
supervisor.
All dispatchers. The only two that don't get it, of course, is Vicky and Sarah.
Okay.
All jailers get it, just, jailers and all
You
juvenile.
said that the dispatchers don't get it, just the supervisors and assistants.
She's talking about a different type of
Different
stipend.
stipend. Oh, a
They
different
get a stipend for being a
Supervisor and
Okay.
assistant
Oh,
supervisor.
because it was said, somebody said the dispatchers didn't get it, that's why.
No, dispatchers get the retention bonus, that's what it is, it was labeled.
But the jail officers get a clothing allowance, maybe that's what I was thinking of, the $1,500 clothing allowance, correct?
Yeah, are they 1,500 or 1,200 or something like that?
I don't know what the number is, Councilman Loudermilk, but I
15.
think it's
15.
1,500.
I think it's 15.
1,500 clothing.
So maybe that's what I was thinking of, I apologize.
But the retention bonus that you guys did, dispatchers, juvenile detention, and jail officers, at this point, receive the $1,500.
At this time, just to clarify, are they not getting the retention bonus?
No, they do.
They do, so they get the retention bonus plus if they're a supervisor or not on their shift.
Correct. The retention bonus is given in 2 installments.
Okay.
During the year. That's how that you guys had decided in the salary ordinance.
But that's not included on this sheet at all?
No.
Okay.
It was part of, if they stayed, that was part of the retention, staying for 6 months, and then they would get the other half.
No.
Vicki, how many shift supervisors do you have to have? 6?
I would like to have 6 per
And
shift.
that covers all your shifts?
Yes, it covers 3
3 and
shifts.
3
Sorry, 2 supervisors per
per
shift.
shift.
I'll ask it out loud.
You're fine, it's fine. They won't even know at this point.
So she's gonna have 2 more.
that would shift two of them, correct? If that part were to go through, she's requesting 2 additional supervisors.
And that's change of pay.
The budget for next year, if you want to take one that number right here, it's 4,461,284 cash balance.
I am so,
And their budget line is 2,224. They bring in 2.6.
Do you think maybe we should just go down and let's just do this?
It's
we might, just kind of what we're talking, we might have to take this in chunks, okay? And just know that it might be a process, because it's so much. And so we might have to take some steps towards that, just knowing that we're looking at it. Because to even make a motion at this point is so confusing, and we just gotta make sure we do it right, so it might have to be in steps and appropriations along the way. Or budget, that too. Cheryl, I'm just looking, again, trying to just simplify and work it out. If the grades were to change, okay, just thinking out loud, if we went with those grades, it's not necessarily, that would put them on parity grade-wise, correct? No, that puts them over.
Well, the difference you have to look at, here's what is interesting. It will put them at parity grade-wise, okay? But the pay-wise is different because theirs is based on so many hours and theirs is based on a different amount of hours. That's the discussion I had with the budget committee today, where this became an issue with, I guess everybody else may say it on record, that came out from the Baker-Tilly study. They listed most of the employees as hourly, and they gave us salaries. It's gotta be divided by the amount of hours that they work, where our last one gave us hourly wages for that position or that classification. Here, they gave us salaries on those grades. So when you divide it out based on how many hours they work, they don't do the 2080, we do what, 1946?
1949.
1949 on a year. And then you have some departments that are on the 2080 because they're 40-hour-week employees. And then you have some employees that are on the 1820 because they're 35-hour-week employees. Hence one of the issues I did not like with this.
What is the projected balance of that fund at the end of the year?
At the end of this year,
Yes.
at the end of this year, it would be right around 4 million, based on any additional appropriation that you just did tonight for moving them to the other building, and any additional that you might do for increases.
What is their budget?
What is their projected budget for next year?
Yes.
For midpoint is 2,123,645.
And for 50%, do you have that?
That's included in that.
That's included in that?
Sorry. Everything was advertised at the midpoint. Didn't say it before, but everything was advertised at the midpoint, as I was instructed to do.
And And how much does that fund bring in per year?
2,632,000. That's the projected revenue for next year.
What was that again? I'm sorry, I didn't.
2,632,753. So they
Projected
are,
revenue for '24?
so their budget is under their revenue, Councilman Lowry. So it's a balanced budget.
So does that include the 911 money that we also get, or
No, this
just
is
from the lit?
This is just the lit piece, that fund. It's fundable.
Is it sustainable? That's the question, right?
If you would continue to give big increases or change. And that is included in my balance for the end of the year of the $4 million. I mean, that includes like everything. That includes that they spend 100% of their budget for '23, which we are well aware they're not going to. And the additional appropriations. I mean, I don't project local income tax going down if we're, my concern, I believe that that's more where your revenue is going to come from these companies coming in. You're gonna have to look at, it's gonna be more from income tax than it's gonna be from property tax.
Cheryl, in looking at this, I mean, we can try to solve the problem for today, but in moving forward and trying to keep things as equal and parity as possible, which is the best avenue, and looking at this, to do this, kind of moving forward. I mean, do you have any thoughts on it?
As far as
As 911?
911.
Yeah. Because I know, like you said, if we change the grade, that could throw stuff off. I'm just, if we're trying to keep things as consistent as possible, what is the best route to go by doing this?
I mean, if you change their grade and your grade is what you want to be consistent with the jailers, like it used to be, and if that's what Councilman Loudermilk said they were closer to, then, because in the Baker-Tilly study, they're what they consider 202 grades, jailers are considered 203s.
Okay.
But the difference comes, Councilwoman Thies, is when you divide it down based on the amount of hours that we've put them under and we put them under. So it comes down to, do you want to have the same grade consistency? Or do you want to have more of the same pay consistency?
What would be most important to you? Pay consistency or grade?
I guess the pay. Yeah.
So if we do that. Did you guys hear that? Kind of pay consistent, pay.
That's true.
I'm gonna talk this out and see if I can do this, and you guys know I'd love to make motions and butcher them.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at that 25th percentile dispatch request, which is in red. If you look at two columns left or to the right of the increase amount, so that first red column, do you guys see what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Right here. That one. Okay. So if we went with that pay request, which gets us closer to parity, but not changing the grade level, would that work?
Just the top.
Did you guys hear what I was saying?
Can we afford
So you're
that?
just saying take it to whatever that 25th percentile. Well,
Dispatch request.
the request
No,
is
same
based
here.
on the grade.
Okay.
So if it's in
I mean,
red-
it's based what Baker Tilly gave you for that grade.
Okay.
So you could leave it at that grade, I guess, but then we're going to be not consistent through the rest of the study.
So you have to change the grade to hit the. And that total, without doing anything to supervise, is 123, 394. Versus the 25 percentile remaining grade was 73,760.
676.
That's 50,000. And that gets them above, a little bit above on parity because of the hours. Then you have to decide whether or not you're doing the supervisors or not versus 27.
Yeah, and if, I will need to know that, because I'll need to address it and make it 6.
So you can do the grade
I'll need to
change.
add 2 supervisors to that.
It's gonna go a little bit more, she wants 6 supervisors.
Yeah, there's 4 on here, and she wants 6, so I need to increase
Right,
that by
so
2.
I'm confused about that.
Right here.
Because last year when I got the stipends, I thought I added 3 assistant supervisors on there. I already had 3 supervisors. I thought I added 3 assistant supervisors. I should have 2 IDAX people and 3 trainers, but I only have 2 trainers.
You have 2 trainers, 2 IDACs, 3 assistants is what you really had, and 3 supervisors. Am I correct? Right.
Marie,
Mm-hmm.
make a motion.
Because you got two things to decide. Do the grade, that, or do the grade and the supervisor consent. Okay, so.
I'm not staying here all night.
No, sorry.
No, I'll get tired.
Man, you got to the big one yet.
Well, the next one will be easy.
I don't think so.
This is nuts. Come on, let's finish this up.
Yeah.
Do you want to address it all in the budget committee? Give them 25% and address it in the budget committee for next year.
I'm gonna give it a try. Help me out if I'm wrong. I'd like to make a motion to, adjust grades as requested with the supervisor, shifts at the 25%, 25th percentile, which would give us, an increase of, or the budget, 150,356.25.
Marie, did you say change grades or not?
Yeah, that was with the grade change. So
With
that-
grade change and at the 25th percentile.
That's the 12th column from the right 25 percentile, with the increased amount being the 10th column from the right at the $150,356.25, putting the dispatch rate at 21.47 is what that would be. And so do I have a, that's,
Plus 2 supervisors.
You
She-
was gonna
she
say a
did.
couple
Okay.
questions.
that's
Yeah,
increased.
I had said with the
Shift and the
supervisor.
supervisor changes.
Okay.
Okay.
And so that adds up to 150, 356.25, and then that is the motion. Is there a second?
Can I ask a question before you go any
Yeah.
farther, to clarify? There was discussion when she brought it. Does that still include stipends for supervisors, or does that eliminate the stipends?
Well, that'll cover.
Well, that's not
cover that.
reflected in the sheet. Either way.
No, because they're down at the bottom, they're separate because of some turnover she's had in the past, and she's had to shift that
Including
stipend to
Give them a stipend.
other,
Yes.
you know what I mean? If she had to put
$1,500.
someone else in that position, she had to shift it.
Those are
So we
supervisor
just give them that
stipends,
$7,500
Including.
she has in stipends to go towards supervisors. But there are some that are receiving that, so does
including-
that?
Yes,
Does
including.
that include or not
Yes.
include?
Is that
Maureen?
include?
I am okay with including stipends because that's
Including
pretty
stipends and
consistent with other departments.
Is there a second on the motion for $150,356.25 plus stipends?
Before we, just for clarity purposes, do we have an effective date in the motion? Do we need an effective date?
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah, you need one.
Thank you, Mr. Loudermilk. I'm doing my best tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I
Effective
think-
date
I think it needs
of,
to be, well, she's not able to hire
What
anybody
is,
right
what is
now.
this figured out at? The red? I assume that's effective of July 1st.
that's an annual.
It's an annual.
That's an annual, so if you do it July 1st, it's, won't be quite half.
Please do July first, because she can't hire anybody now.
Yeah, I'll make it effective July 1st.
So then there'll be a retro for those who are still here, and those who have left, the goose egg. Make sure to tell them that.
Effective July 1,
July
adding
1.
the 2 supervisors, taking them to the 25th percentile with the recommended grade changes, and continuing the stipends for
That's-
supervisors.
That's it.
Is that the understanding? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yep.
Correct? Okay.
Okay, but I still need a second. It doesn't do us any good if we have a motion with no second.
I second the motion.
Second the motion. Any further discussion? Yes.
I would just say, I mean, we took a long way to get here, and it's obviously very challenging, especially with everything else coming after, but they need a raise, they need help, I get that, but just philosophically, I can't support it if it's not January 1st.
Okay.
I just can't do it.
Okay.
Was the motion July?
It is July 1, that's what she ended up putting effective date.
Now, hold on.
I agree with Councilman Loudermilk.
Okay. That's a good discussion, but we have a motion and we have a second, so we're gonna vote on it, and then at that point, we'll see if it fails or passes. If it passes, then it does, and if not, then we will be able to entertain another motion.
And
He said he wants.
I'm just kind of talking so people know where I stand, because I think if I'm gonna kind of have that addressed, put myself out there to make a motion so we can move forward. But also at the same time, listening to the concerns, you know, I know that this has been a problem and you're really getting hit even more so recently. But I still think I have to listen to it. I think in a lot of ways, I wanted to start a lot of stuff at July 1. Again, we'll just see what the substance of it. Regardless, I'm trying to get you guys something, so.
Any other questions or discussion before we do a roll call vote?
Oh, sorry.
Did I have my mic on? Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Mr. Loudermilk?
Did this include the director and assistant director
Yeah.
spots too?
Yeah, it did.
just
It
wanna
made the
Covered
change
quite a
right there.
bit.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Again, I can't do it just because I think everybody needs to be at January 1st. I feel like this is going to go through, but I've said all along everybody should be at January 1st. So nay.
Ms. Alsop? Ms. Swager,
Aye.
Ms. Thies,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Nay.
Mr. Thompson,
Nay.
Mr. Thacker.
Aye. Motion carries.
And I think in talking, if I could just talk for a second, it's tough, having worked on the budget committees for a couple of years, and then also having this thrown in the mix, it gives a lot of perspective. I would love to do everyone, whatever I could, but I've got to look forward to the county. I've got to look at what's sustainable. I absolutely treasure our employees and what they do, but I've also got to make sure that we continue to have the staff that we need to for the future.
Right.
And I just worry about that. So I
And I in no
try to
way
do a compromise.
diminish any job that
Okay.
any county employee does
Okay.
here.
No.
I think they're all worthy of whatever they get. But right now, we are critical, and when myself and my director has to go back to working a radio, that's a problem in this county for the people it's calling 911.
Do you think this will help?
Hopefully.
I hope it will.
Hopefully on this one, we did not only the 25%, but we also did the shift change. That's how I could support it. And we're looking to do what we have to do from what the budget perspective. It doesn't seem feasible, even though I would love to go back to January. I don't think we can go back to January and then have to turn around and do the same thing what we have coming up in January again. So, all right, well, thank you. We got
All
to
right.
move on. We have
Thank you.
another agenda item. Amendment to the 2023 Vigo County Salary Ordinance. That's been passed out to everyone from the Auditor's Department. In turn, now that we have the E911, we know how that's going to factor into it. So now we have, we had a budget meeting today, and we had discussion there. Now, it could change, but Cheryl, did you have any other handout that you had for that with this is the only handout we have for the proposed amendment, right?
That's for the 25%
That's the 25 percentile, that was a recommendation.
We need to discuss those other adjustments that we discussed at the last meeting. But
Yep.
I can give you something on those, which I gave last week for those who were here. If you want me to go through those.
Whatever
I can.
Anybody else wants here, I came to that meeting today to get a little bit, a better understanding. So does anyone have any questions for Cheryl with what she's handed out here?
Michael might be able to talk about it more again like he did last time. And the changes that he made, he actually did the actual salary ordinance part, waiting for your effective date. But the rest includes increasing the rest of the employees who have not been addressed to the 25th percentile, and that is for general employees only. Again, it does not include sheriff or public because they were already at the 25th percentile. So this salary ordinance addresses those who were not at the 25th percentile.
Michael, would you,
I would- yeah, no,
reiterating a little bit of, Vicki said it was very eloquent last week, so.
I don't know about that.
Nice, so.
I agree with what Cheryl said. The ordinance that was prepared takes into account the steps that have already been taken by the council with regards to the highway, the prosecutor's office, and the public defender's office. You could include 911 dispatch in that now. The language in the document that I prepared tried to reflect that, and yeah, at this point, it is really just a determination on the final directive regarding the sheets of information that go in behind that ordinance that actually fulfill the information that payroll needs to process that on a bi-weekly basis.
And it does address one of the things that Mr. Gardner asked about, the level of the first 6 months of employment. That's on page 2.
That's correct, yes. It provides that any new employee comes in at the minimum for the first 6 months of employment and then would be eligible for the base salary as a incentive to remaining employed after that probationary period.
And it also on the third page has what we just talked about is the full-time correction officers employed by the county and the full-time dispatch employed by E11 that are eligible to receive an annual stipend of $1,500 or aid to attract retention employees once they have been there 6 months.
Yeah, so the vast majority of that language was pulled from, you know, what had been prepared moving into the 2023 budget by the council at that time and Mr. Effner. So the biggest part of the provisions were things that you've already seen in your prior salary ordinances. The only real exceptions to that were the prior actions taken by the council with regards to dealing with issues already in the beginning part of 2023, and then the clarifying the council's intention with regards to stipends, you know, making sure that those sort of things lined up with what your intention was from a overall compensation perspective.
And there has been no change on our longevity policy at this time.
That's
So
correct.
that is addressed in there as well. That was part of the discussion today.
I think we also discussed insurance.
That's got to come from the commissioners. Right now, currently, the commissioners decide if there's right now, just like it was last January, besides the 4% increase, the county picked up all increases of health care. Going forward, that's up to the commissioners to decide if they're going to continue that or not. That's a commissioner decision.
Fund with budgets.
And this does not address anything to do with elected officials' pay, because that cannot be changed until the end of the calendar year.
That's correct, yes,
Even though Baker Tilly didn't have recommendations.
that's right, and those could all be addressed moving into the 2024 budget. You know, I mean,
yes.
that's just the appropriate time to address those issues.
Any further questions of either Cheryl or legal counsel?
Need a motion.
So we'll have to change this from here, dispatching. So now that grade's changed, this last page will change. Yeah, yeah.
Can we go ahead and move forward with it, even with those grade changes that are attached on here?
No.
Or you could just make that in the motions, except this, yeah.
Okay, we will have a salary ordinance, actual amended salary ordinance prepared to reflect this. You can just sign it then, at that point, because you've basically already approved it as a salary ordinance. I would just, if they want to amend this part.
Yeah, no, I got it.
And where Michael had already put, you'd already addressed, you could add dispatch to that.
Okay. And so making a motion on this, are we making a motion just on the ordinance
accept it.
itself?
Yeah, accept the ordinance, salary ordinance as amended.
Okay, and then we have to give the date too. Okay.
Okay.
Well, since I went out on a limb and probably ruffling
Noble job,
feathers.
incidentally.
Well, taking into consideration, this and moving forward, and again, you know, it's one of the tough parts. I'm not always gonna make friends and, you know, I have to do what I think is fiscally right. So I'm gonna make a motion to take everyone who's not been addressed, thus far, to the 25th percentile of the recommended Baker Tilly study, and standing by with the July 1st start date, considering we've had a raise, 2023.
So a motion has been made to amend the 2023
Vigo County salary ordinance. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions or discussion at this point?
Just discussion-wise, I think this will, hopefully, by doing this way with July 1st, gives us some more options as we go into the new budget. With 2024, I'm hopeful, but also being realistic about it. We're getting, close to that January date. So maybe this will give us some different options. That's why I chose July 1st.
Anybody else? Question, comment? Before we do a roll call vote? Mr. Alder, roll call, please.
Mr. Loudermilk,
Nay.
Miss Alsop,
Aye.
Miss Wager,
Aye.
Miss Thies,
Aye.
Mr. Norris, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Thacker.
Aye. Motion passes 5-2. Okay, honorary resolutions, hearing none. Resolutions relating fiscal policy of the council, none. Appointments, none. Public comment limited to items not on tonight's agenda.
I think everybody's asleep.
You can.
Okay, none, hearing none? Yeah, if it's not on tonight's item.
Well, this has to do with the high schools and the colleges. You know, the colleges want money for their needs. You know, they want some of that rescue fund.
Yeah.
And so, what I would suggest, if they all, I read in the last paper last couple of weeks, so they all want something, I would just say, hey, we have a problem with our high school. We have a problem with poverty. So if you presidents of these colleges can get together and talk to your board to see what kind of a solution that you could come up with that a county of poverty could afford high school, you know, I would like to hear that. You know, because the school board can't fix it, and the councils can't fix it, and the mayor can't fix it. So I'd like to see what type of benefit that the colleges could come up with to help us. You know, they've been here for decades. I'd like to try to tap in their resources to see what we can get from them. You know, it also gives the colleges opportunity to band together to see if they can come up in a collaboration in order to help solve some problems that are a dread to a lot of areas or a lot of different places in this country. You know, it would teach them, hey, you know, when they get together, they would find out that they had a lot of problems that they had to work out in order to get the right people, you know, in the right heads of the department in order to find a solution. You know, like, hey, we think our department could find a better solution over here, you know, and that could help offset the cost of taxes and stuff going into kind of like a project where you have to spend money on, but you're getting poor results, you know, and because you're having people that really don't have a high, maybe intelligence factor, making decisions that cost money, and then you have to reinvest and pay for it all over again because, you know, these people are on the top crust of intelligence. So I think that they ought to be able to provide some input. You know, personally for me, I would just think that you would have one high school in this city or this county. You'd have one high school, and then you wouldn't have any.
Mr.
Okay.
Sutherland, I believe your time's up, but I do appreciate your comment on it. Thank you today.
It's been a long meeting.
Anybody else? All right. Hey, well, I would accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion to adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Everyone, say aye. Aye. Aye.